Hello there again. Um, we've finally got round to reading Marvel Legacy #1, which we'll talk about in a bit. Yeah, and we've got a few other bits and bobs news from the different publishers, um, which we're going to put out. We're straight from the horse's mouth as usual. We go to uh, we go to them for the news as opposed to other media news outletty bits and bobs. You know what I mean? The usuals. I won't go into them again. Um, but yeah, first off, I've often been accused of being too much into, too biased towards DC, and a little bit down at Marvel in its current, in its current state. Um, Really isn't the case. I mean, actually, the majority of my collection, wasn't the majority of the collection, but I would say that my collection has probably more Marvel than anything else. I'm a huge fan of like Silver Age through to mid 90s. I was sort of actively collecting. I still collect little bits and bobs, as I've mentioned before. I still religiously buy Daredevil, and I do buy the X-Men books, but I'm a little bit more conservative with which ones I buy now because there's so many of them. So that in mind, I wanted to put that over before I talked about Marvel Legacy. Sorry, the camera's a little bit. Yeah, so it was released yesterday, and with a huge amount of hype. I think what we've been sort of led to believe is it's going to be, if you like, this isn't the official term, but it's going to do for Marvel what Rebirth has done for DC, which is a huge task. I mean, Rebirth didn't do what it did for DC because because it was just a new crossover or a new story arc or whatever. It did it because it was legitimately good. The actual Rebirth issue was a great issue, and it left us with a massive cliffhanger that was fantastic. Something that was legitimately you know, um, you know, we didn't expect at all. Which is where we hit the first snag with Marvel Legacy. Don't believe in giving sort of reviews in the sense of reviews, which is ridiculous because you could take any sort of any you know person vlogging their point of view as a review, really, including my own. But we try not to sort of make sure, put it over that it's not, we know we're not infallible. It's just our point of view, and we try and encourage discussion about it. So please, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, then brilliant. Let's chat about it. But Legacy. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but or I can try not to, as much as possible. The problem that I found with Legacy is it doesn't really give us any new ground. When I say that we're not going to give away any spoilers, I think the majority of everything about Legacy has already been given away anyway by various sort of outlets, news outlets. It's not exactly a very well kept secret of what they're trying to achieve. Unfortunately, from that first issue, it just felt like every other Marvel event of the last, sort of 5 to 10 years, which is not a good thing. It just seems to when you shouldn't keep sort of insistently uh, you know comparing it to other things, but it's hard not to. There is obviously going to be a certain amount of comparison between other things that are coming out from other publishers, within the same industry. So you can't not compare it to what they're doing over in DC. And not everything in DC, is perfect, but far from it. But as a whole, Rebirth has been a massive success. Its sales are fantastic. For them. the the actual quality of the material, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the biggest majority of what I can see of fans, is beyond favourable. Especially that first issue. That first issue was brilliant, but it set the whole Rebirth up. It was so good that they could build on that. And then what Marvel haven't really done with this is, it just felt like I forget. I don't have it to hand because I read it digitally, which I never really do. But I couldn't get hold of a copy in time, and I thought that if I didn't do this video, it would go off the boil. And I do want people to discuss with me over the comments and stuff. Please try and be, try and be, you know, um, you know, yeah. Don't just give abuse and be foolish about it. But yeah, I would like to, try and get people to talk about it. But what I felt was that it was just they kind of missed the point of what Rebirth did. Rebirth told a great story and left us on a cliffhanger. It kind of built that up, and then and then you buy the titles because obviously you want to see how this storyline, I think everyone knows about the Dr. Manhattan sort of angle by now, so I don't think I'm breaking any sort of non-spoiler rules there, but how it affects each character, which is genius, because we're all intrigued. We're all like, oh, that's fantastic. How is this? With it's Watchmen, so it's a character that hasn't been used within the major DC universe before. The problem is with what they've been proposing with Marvel and what it's going to affect and what it's going to bring back in characters. These characters haven't really been out of circulation long enough for us to really be that pumped about getting them back, to be honest. Some of these sort of older incarnations have been out for a couple of years. It's nothing. So do they really expect us to be that excited about having them back after what is essentially 5 minutes ago? I don't know. Like I said, I mean, this is, you can feel free, and please do sort of agree, disagree, whatever, but it just seemed a bit like a non-event, really. Kind of like a kind of a miscue. It's kind of hard for Marvel to do because they don't, a lot of their characters don't go out of circulation for long periods of time. So it's kind of hard with the concept is kind of flawed from moment go. It's kind of hard to do that because I know all the companies sort of bring everything back around, bring characters back from the dead, and all that. But Marvel, I mean, for example, you got people taking over the mantles of I forget the girl's name. I'm not a huge Iron Man, especially current Iron Man fan. But the girl's took over the mantle of Ironheart for like all of 5 minutes, and it's wow, Tony Stark is whatever, and it's like, it's only not been Iron Man for all 5 minutes. It's the way the book was put together as well. The story was put together. It kind of felt like it was there solely for an aid to sell the books, in the same way that Civil War 2 was. Civil War 2 really didn't say much. It was just there to sort of further the sales of the individual books, the Civil War tie-in books, and that's kind of what this feels like again. In some ways, as some people have said, but Dark Days has done that as well, Forged and casting. But I would agree that that's a fair point. But I would argue that Dark Days is treading more new ground than Legacy. So it's kind of like it's flawed straight away, to be honest. I'm still looking forward to, and this is not, and like I said, I've been accused of being sort of like a little biased towards DC recently, but that's just because DC since New 52. I know New 52 is like a controversial issue because not everybody likes New 52. A lot of the old schoolers, um, didn't like it. Me personally, I thought it was a great move. It made sense, and the books were good. There was there was some great arcs coming out from great writers about sort of the old characters, stuff that you know, stuff that felt fresh at the time. It was a great move, New 52, and then they go straight. It got a little stale towards the end, but then the concept had kind of sunk it. It was no longer a new concept, so you have to. It is going to have a point where it's no longer the new big thing. But I thought New 52 was, start to end, great. I liked it. I really liked it. I loved it. Um, and it made it fresh, especially for me, somebody who struggles with what I collect from DC. See, I only really like I collect Batman and Superman, and some of the more obscure titles. If I've said it once, I've said it again. Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing was one of the best things about New 52. Animal Man, I thought that was fantastic, but and it's this new sort of Marvel Legacy thing. It's not giving us anything that we haven't had for for any sort of longer than 4 years, 5. I think 5 years would be stretching it. 3-4 years. So it kind of feels like it's that thing. It's like for people like for me personally, I want an excuse to start buying Avengers again. Do you know what I mean? I really want sort of, but the Avengers books, there's so many Avengers books out, and it's like, well, it's just a big mess, and you want an Avengers book, like it was back in the day. Incidentally, before I forget, sorry, I got my laptop here with all my stuff on. There is at the moment on Marvel's website a sort of a nod, a celebration of Jack Kirby's work, because it's his 100th birthday, or has been his 100th birthday sometime very recently. I recommend, if you're not familiar, a lot of, especially for younger readers, if they're not familiar with Jack Kirby's work, they didn't call him Jack the King Kirby for nothing. The way he did the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and stuff is a milestone in one of the major milestones within the industry. The Silver Age wouldn't have been possible without Jack Kirby's illustrations. I really believe that. He's one of the greatest illustrators that ever lived. But they've kind of got this article, and there's lots of stuff on there. So if you go onto Marvel's website, have a look. It's quite cool. It's quite interesting to read, but I very much recommend it. But but that's kind of what's missing, that classic element. And the thing is with Marvel's legacy, not the book, but their actual legacy. There's so much that they could use that they're not. There's so much that they could do that they're not. And I'm really hoping that it's going to come through. I'm really hoping that this. I've been told by somebody, an insider, that said that they'd read a bit more before it was officially released. I can't. It was a friend of a friend, so I'm not gonna name names, but they said that it will get to a point where a lot of us. I think it is aimed more at sort of like people maybe a few years younger than me to a few years older than me, which is the main target demographic within selling comics. So they're going purposely for these these incarnations that are gonna stoke a bit of nostalgia for us, especially sort of 80s, 90s. As I say, kind of my sort of beginning era. So it's going to be cool for some of us, but not for others. I see one of the ones I'm really looking forward to is Spirits of Vengeance. I was a huge Ghost Rider fan of Volume 2. Started in 1992, I think, with Danny Ketch. I absolutely adore Ghost. I love Johnny Blaze original Ghost Rider as well. I collect the Bronze Age Ghost Rider as well. But I remember buying Volume 2 when it was coming out and just absolutely loving it. And they're bringing back the Spirits of Vengeance, which is like a little team put together of Blades in it, which is awesome. You know, Johnny. They're using Johnny Blaze, but it actually looks more like, apart from the bike, it looks a little bit more like the Danny Ketch. So it should be cool. It should be cool. They are going to do a few things. It's just that first book, that legacy book, really kind of miscued for me personally. You know, I've seen various. I don't really tend to read the reviews in any great detail. We're not going to go into how I feel about professional reviews, but there was sort of like you know, mixed. Some people really weren't happy and felt that it was just an advert for other books, for upcoming books, which is kind of a little bit how I felt. Other people, yeah, it's not a bad book. It's not a terrible book. It's just not quite what we were expecting. What I always expect. I was expecting something a little bit stronger, to, you know, a stronger footing to begin with. Which again is what we got from Rebirth. It was a mega strong footing to build that foundation on, and it worked well. You know, and this just really hasn't had the same effect on me personally. Again, you might be a sort of die-hard fan of the current sort of Avengers and this, you know, and some of the newer, you know, some of the newer characters to take sort of older mantles. So it might be fantastic and fresh and new to you, you know, and fair play. You know, it's not a badly wrote book, and the artwork's great. You know, that's not the problem. Or, you know, so give it a read. You know, it's well worth whatever it's cost. I think the standard covers going, you know, $3.99. I mean, what's that? In this country, it's not much. Depends from place to place, but it's, you know, it's nothing. It's, you know, give it a read, see if you like it. If you don't have to buy the rest. But yeah, other news, we were looking at Boom Studios. Was it Boom? No, it wasn't Boom. We'll get on to Boom, but it was IDW who have acquired the rights to Sonic the Hedgehog, which sounds a little bit kiddie, and you know, it is for the younger readers mostly. But what I find is, with the current trend at the moment within comics at going for retro and going for a certain age, they are sort of buying into the target demographic, you know, given in market research by, you know, people like Diamond Comics and stuff like that, which is pretty, you know, they are the supplier. So it's pretty much bang on. If you get your market research from Diamond, I mean, they kind of, I say dictate, that sounds terrible, but they don't dictate, but they are the industry, they are your supplier, and you know, and they make it very easy for you to be able to sort of look at those demographics. So I would assume, and you know, some of the artwork, I mean, again, go onto IDW's website and have a look for yourself. But you know, the art kind of looks a little bit more sort of like mid-90s. And like some of the cartoons, but I would assume that they would, you know, that it does look like they're going for kind of a retro look, which would sort of keep in with what's going on at the moment. What else is coming from there? They're continuing their strong, you know, push of their Disney books. What they got, DuckTales at the moment, Treasure Trove. I always did really, really well with Disney Comics, I'll be honest. This is always, you know, a kid and a mum that comes in and they like to look at the things that, you know, and it's something that, you know, when the kids are looking at all the stuff that they don't know, because, you know, people are aware now, even when layman's come in, they are aware that certain comic books are not suitable for children, you know, so a mum might be like a little bit, is this okay? You know, kids walk in, they want Deadpool. You know, back before my shop closed, that everyone wanted Deadpool, even the little kids, and you know, parents knew better, you know, so they would ask, you know, when did they watch the cartoons? Well, you know, we've got Looney Tunes, we've got Disney, you know, we got everything, you know, Adventure Time do a great comic book. So yeah, IDW were sort of pushing forward with their Disney, which is, like I said, always been great. I've always done really well out of them. What else have we got there? I think that might be it for IDW. Yeah, for now. Oh, Beauty Horror, world's creepiest colouring book. Creepy colouring books from IDW. I would have thought that sounds a lot more like a Dark Horse project, but cool. Yeah, we'll have a look at that. I'll try and get one of those actually, and we'll review it. What else have we got? Dark Horse. It's all New York Comic Con news. But what do we have? Do we have anything? New Hellboy omnibus collections. High School is Hell. For the Empowered. Nothing really. You go into there, but there's nothing really that I can cherry pick from there. It's mostly announcements and stuff from New York Comic Con, which is coming up. But yeah, have a look. This is the best source of you want if you don't mind wading through a little bit, and you don't mind reading through, and the best place to get the news for the comic books, and we do little, our vlogs. I mean, we put little bits and bobs, but we always refer to the original source material and say this is the best place to get it, and it is the best place to get it. It's straight from the horse's mouth. It's straight from the publishers, because they won't steer you wrong. There's a lot of nonsense and negativity within, fanboy news, which we also are, but you get what I'm saying. DC, we've got the Doomsday Clock, Countdown to Doomsday Clock by Jeff Johns, which is coming on November. Wildstorm to Wonder Woman. Shay Fontana is about to start writing on Wonder Woman. That's great news. Shay, is a fantastic writer. What did it do? Sorry, I was just trying to find a reference for. Sorry, bear with me. Doesn't say, but it's. Yeah, anyway.